Welcome, everyone, to Gems from the Wisdom Traditions, a conversation circle sponsored by Still and Moving Center, with themes that come from our Still and Moving Center Almanac, which has the theme for this year of 2024 of irreversibility, eyes to the stars. And we have someone who's going to give us an initial presentation for our conversation today on the topic of dropping the mask. And it's someone who I think of as always moving forward, always having their eyes to the stars, quite irreversibly. And this is Eddie O'Brien. He is somebody who joined our Still and Moving Center community, half dozen years ago, probably now. And
I think even a little more than that, but
maybe.
I think it's like 7 or 8.
Oh, could be. He's just an incredible dancer, professional dancer, has been for many years. And so really is able to speak deeply from the tradition of dance. And he's also been, for all the time that I've known him, a very sincere meditator. And I think that our topic of dropping the mask has a lot to do with the question of who am I? And that is really something that is something probably best addressed from that deep introspection and uplifting kind of looking into what's most real, so that we know what it is that can be dropped. So, Eddie, to kick off our conversation, we'd love to hear from you about this topic and your experience in the world of dance and also meditation.
Okay. I did manage to get a little visual presentation. Not much, just like some words that people can read and see it a little more clearly. Let's see if I can share that screen. Start that. Good. All right. So,
Mhm.
oops, go back. Okay. There we go. So everybody can hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. So when Renee asked me about to do this presentation, I was it was pretty easy for me to think of how this has applied to my life, and particularly, as a human being, but also as a performer. I have background in dance. I just moved here last year, but I was in Europe for 11 years before that, and in Minneapolis for about 8 years before that, and living as a performer, as a dancer. And I have been on a journey of how to be present as a performer, and how to be able to make my performance a gift rather than seeking, some kind of, feeling of completion from someone else, from outside of myself. So this topic was pretty easy for me to reflect on. So anyway, I just wanted to read these quotes because if you haven't read them yet, there's some really good ones in here, and I'll just pass through them. We should hold our lives loosely, not with the convulsive grip of one who counts his personal life as his all. Edward Bellamy. The sign of the crab is overbrooded by the moon and symbolizes the realm of the personality or mask. Hermes. I'm actually, my sign is Cancer. My birthday was a few weeks ago. Self-examination is the examination of the lower and personal self by the higher and impersonal self, WQ Judge. It is impossible for me to not feel that my body is other than I, that I inhabit it like a house, and that my face is a mask which, with or without my consent, conceals my real nature from others, W.H. Auden. Looking for a perfect outward harmony and fitting together personalities, even of those best adapted and most passionately attached, we shall ever meet with bitter disappointment. But in the higher plane of this larger life, we can always realize that fusion and identity is identity that is the heart of all love. Edward Bellamy. Be quiet, still, and solitary. The world will freely offer itself to you to be unmasked. It has no choice. It will roll in ecstasy at your feet. Kafka. The loathsome mask has fallen. The man remains, the king over himself, just, gentle, wise. Percy B. Shelley. And luminous beings we are, not this crude matter. Yoda. I love that one. All right. So then I have another quote here to just put into the mix. The mirror does not flatter. It faithfully shows whatever looks into it, namely the face we never show to the world because we cover it with a persona, the mask of the actor. But the mirror lies behind the mask and shows the true face, Carl Jung. So this picture here is a little excerpt from a piece that my partner and I created called Pasta e Lava. And the whole premise of the piece was using the pasta as a way to exemplify entropy, this ever-changing aspect of the universe, this energy, kind of like thinking of like any glass that is made will end up being broken. Anything that we build up will fall apart, and yet we still keep building, we still keep making. And this idea of ever changing. So when we used this idea of a mask, we actually used it a little bit more in alignment with this idea of our true selves, of the inner part of ourselves that is always changing, and maybe also this desire to keep forming, to bring it back, to put on something that's that kind of protects us, but it doesn't hold. It keeps falling, keeps drifting down. So when we think of a mask, we often think of how. Just sorry, I'm going to take off my headphones here because I feel like I'm not talking. Sorry, just a second. Oh, shoot. Sorry about that. I accidentally turned off the Wi-Fi instead of the Bluetooth. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Sure. Okay.
So, when we think about a mask, we think about a mask that seems constant, unchanging, but we are always changing. As a performer, the use of a costume or mask can sometimes help release the performer's creativity and ability to offer their art without busying the mind as much with insecurities. However, this ultimately is a crutch that can endanger the performer into becoming two-dimensional. The mark of an expert performer is one who can keep the performance alive and uh, present without depending on costume or character, who can share with an observer the moving spirit that transcends self. So has been my journey as a performer. How can I get to this place of uh, being present without the crutch of performing? This is the last company I was with, Emmanuel Gat Dance, was one of our key tenets as an aesthetic, that we were trying to find how we can show our humanness. And the company was comprised mostly of seasoned dancers. Most of us were over 30. And the way we were trying to share our art was through actually sharing our deepest selves, to not to be seen, but also to see, to share without putting on something else. And so this has been something that I found that is a moment to moment thing. It's not something that you can say, okay, I have this, I've got it, down without thinking about it anymore. It's something that is constantly coming up as a performer, because the mind is different, and it's ever changing, and one day you feel, wow, I feel super confident, and then the next day you can have all these thoughts, or just having so many things in your mind that distract you, and then you still have to perform, right? You still have to give a product that people are expecting, and that, I think, in the end, is what makes people burn out as performers, because it's not something that, it feels like you're never known. It feels like you're never being seen, and it's not giving to you as a performer, and you don't receive anything back because you're not letting yourself be seen. So I've been thinking about this, this one phrase that we know, where to know thyself. This phrase has been key to my hope for humanity, and for myself in personal growth, because it's been, let's see, 2015 I started meditating, and this turn of focus, of really trying to understand who I am, accept the the dark and the light aspects of who I am, even though I'm trying, I desire light, I desire to offer goodness into the world, but I have been constantly at war with myself, and even thinking that it wasn't even possible. At some point I felt like, okay, I'm just this being that is not changed. I can't change. I can't, and I feel like I need to hide those darker aspects of myself. And you hope that you find a partner or someone that you're with that will accept all those things, but that also is pretty rare. We all want someone who looks and acts in a way that's ideal, that we haven't, that kind of lives up to the image that we have. So those ideas of a mask actually are not just self-imposed, they're imposed in society. And so this it makes the challenge of actually letting your dropping that mask and letting the inner part of you breathe, even more difficult. So in the temple of Apollo in Delphi, there's this is where the know thyself phrase comes from. I warn you, whoever you are, oh, You want to probe the arcana of nature, that if you do not find within yourself that which you are looking for, you shall not find it outside either. If you ignore the excellences of your own house, how do you pretend to find other excellences? Within you is hidden the treasure of treasures. Know thyself, and you will know the universe and the gods. And then I'll take this on as well. Nothing in us ever remains quite uncontradicted, and consciousness can take up no position which will not call up somewhere in the dark corners of the psyche a negation or a compensatory effect, approval or resentment. This process of coming to terms with the other in us is well worthwhile, because in this way we get to know aspects of our nature which we would not allow anybody else to show us, and which we ourselves would never have admitted. Carl Jung again. So this journey of knowing thyself, there are a lot of different ways. Everybody's got their own journey, their techniques. My technique that I've taken on to know myself is Vipassana meditation, and it really effectively changed. It changed the way I saw the universe. It opened up my curiosity again. It helped me to find, to let myself, like my dark and like struggling parts of my body, of my internal darknesses, to just be, to not judge them, not to say that, oh, this is bad, this is good, I don't want this, but the truth is that they are there. Letting myself not give too much attention to them either. A lot of times I would find anxiety residing inside of my body and not even know why it was there. And then I would go crazy thinking like, oh, I can't even get rid of it. I don't know what to do with this. And then it would actually add to the anxiety. And then I would do some crazy thing. I would go and jump off of a building and do parkour and climb fences and skate down big hills and do things that were a bit dangerous because it helped me to be present. But that was also a distraction. Dance also was a bit of that. So this meditation helped me to get to this place. Be quiet, still, and solitary. The world will freely offer itself to you to be unmasked. It has no choice. It will roll in ecstasy at your feet. Franz Kafka. I want to read this little excerpt from this book I've been picking up here and there. It's called Awakening to the Tao by Liu Yiming. The shining of the sun and moon. The way the sun works, it climbs into the sky in the daytime, thus illuminating the outward, then goes behind the earth at night, thus illuminating the inward. The way the moon works, in the first half of its cycle, it produces light, thus illuminating the outward. Then in the last half of its cycle, it withdraws its light, thus nurturing the inward. Sun and moon, illuminating outside and inside, are all one light. When I realize, as I observe this in the Tao of using illumination, what I realize as I observe this is the Tao of using illumination. If people can use illumination outwardly, be careful about what they say and do, refrain from inappropriate conduct, not dwell on anything but the Tao, not be distorted by the power of sensuality, intoxicants, and material goods, not be seduced by wealth or status, success or fame, not be stained by mundane feelings connected to worldly situations. Then they can illuminate the outward as do the sun and moon. If people can use illumination inwardly, do away with falsehood and maintain truthfulness, leave confusion and return to reality, learn to master emotions, clear up feelings, clean the mind, melt away the human mentality, and activate the awareness of Tao, carefully avoiding even the slightest errant thought, then they can illuminate the inward as do the sun and moon. When the inward and the outward are illuminated, all is clear. You are one with the light of the sun and moon. When developed to its ultimate state, this is a round luminosity which nothing can deceive. the subtle body of a unified spirit pervading the whole universe, then you have the same function as the sun and moon. So this photo here is taken as one of the photos to promote a piece that I did with this company I was telling you about, Emmanuel Gat Dance. It's one of the last performances I did before moving here. And it was a dance that was used was kind of from the use of Tosca's Puccini's Tosca, the opera. And we just used parts Act 2 and 3 from the opera. And the first half of the piece were 11 solos of the dancers in the company, all nude. And the choreographer proposed this idea to us, well in advance, and saying, if you don't want to do this, this is okay. You're out of the company. Just want to, I have this idea of these solos to start the piece. And then the second half, you'll be in like tuxedos, basically. And so we had that choice, and I decided to do it. I had never done really nude dancing in the nude before. I never really found it justified. Also, it's super common in Europe, so it's not like something that is, like it's a bit overused sometimes. And I feel like I felt like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I have to have a good reason for it. And what I found in doing this solo, I ended up actually having the longest amount of time. I had like 7 minutes, like 7.5 minutes solo, which if you've ever done a dance solo, 7.5 minutes is a really long time. And then you add on the fact that I'm doing this naked, and I'm doing this naked, and I'm sharing. Sorry, I'm sharing my my own movement creation, and so everything is me. The choreographer was there during the process to encourage authenticity, to encourage. He had a really good eye of seeing when we were putting on a mask, when we were like performing. So that's how he was involved, more like a coach rather than a choreographer, the traditional choreographer. And we actually didn't like rehearse naked. It was usually with like, maybe it was up to us. We could use, regular rehearsal clothes, or a lot of us chose to at least be in our underwear, because how you slide on the floor is really affected by how much skin is exposed. So you could understand the movement proposals that you're making. Anyway, I remember this moment when I first showed this. I shared my solo in front of an audience. And there was a moment in the middle of the solo where I saw that I had a freedom. I had an opportunity for freedom, because here I was, I was like very self-conscious, like everybody can see my bits and pieces, and more than that, I was very self-conscious of like, oh, I can't hide how my body is doing the movement. If you wear like a costume, like pants with like flowy stuff, you can kind of hide that, oh, you're not initiating from a certain spot, or you're using too much muscle, or there's a lot of aspects that I think detach, especially a trained eye from watching dance. And you start thinking about all these things in your mind, like, oh wow, okay, I can be judged in so many ways. And it was my movement, it was my creation, it was my choice of timing in the moment, because we did a very we did a lot of work on making the choices very of the moment, to not kind of pre-choreograph everything. timing wise and intention wise. So as much space as possible in the brain was super important. So this moment where I realized, wow, I have a power to really share myself at this moment. Of course, it can happen, you know, with the costume and all this stuff. But at this particular moment, I was like, I don't have anything to hide behind. I don't have a choice. It's just me for 7 minutes, and if I let this drop, you know, you can feel that energy. You know, you're in the stage, and you can feel people sit back. Okay, they're not with me anymore. And and as soon as you start performing in that moment, as soon as you start putting on something to hide and you know, put extra energy, and you're like, eh, and I'm like, you know, like most of what you see in social media, uh it doesn't work in a live performance because people won't believe you, and then they don't, because they're not going to connect with you as a human being. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do, what I want to do as a performer. And so I found this place that, you know, of reassurance that, okay, I can be present because I am sharing something that, you know, that I've been given opportunity to share some myself, which is ultimately something that is sensitive and fragile, and has all these complexities and insecurities, and I don't have to apologize for them, because it was built into the core to what we were proposing, which I felt super grateful for. And I feel like during the process of performing this piece, I was really happy because Jessica, my partner, was able to see this performance. But I had, I think, one of the best performances of my life, where I felt so present that I shared uh, uh, like my soul on stage. Like I felt like this is me, uh, the raw me. I'm not putting on anything, and that for me, I don't know how it was. I don't know how it felt, you know, like performative wise, but I felt like never even watched it. You know, I never had a video of it, but I knew that this was me. I wasn't putting on a mask for this show, and it felt very felt like, okay, I think I can move to Hawaii now, because I've I've found I've actually accomplished something. Doesn't mean I don't feel like I want to stop performing, but I kind of you know, found I reached one of my goals as a performer. Consistency, of course, then is maybe a next level uh, point, but it was it was very rewarding. And when I talked to people, you know, afterwards too, and Jessica, they also felt very connected, and that's what made me feel uh, uh, like I had accomplished what I was searching for. So this and I think, you know, there are a lot of analogies with dance.
Eddie,
Yes.
I should mention we should probably start making it into a conversation now for everybody.
Okay,
So,
sure.
yeah, but go ahead and do your little wrap up. That would be great.
There are a lot of analogies that go with dance uh, that are pertinent to life, and I think that, you know, what we were trying to do in this company on stage was kind of share with people, like, this is how we can be as human beings. This is why I feel like dance and poetry are venues through which we can pass through unreadable, you know, the things that can be not be spoken. I think there's one more thing that I just really wanted to share real quickly. Sorry. Oh, you probably can't see that because I didn't share that yet. Share. Okay, so just to kind of get us going. So my question, I have a few questions, maybe just, if we feel like addressing them. So if we want to find ways to let out and take away this mask, there are a lot of dark parts of us, right? There are a lot of inconsistencies and things that culture labels as ugly, or that are just kind of heavy. And how do we is it possible to release our light but not hide or suppress our dark? And then the other idea I was thinking is that I'm reading a book. I'm reading a book called Three Body Problem series, and there's an aspect of us as human beings that helps us survive in the universe, and that's our ability to put up a mask, to say something that we don't believe, as strategy for strategic reasons. So I was thinking, are there moments that we can think of where a mask actually is beneficial? Sometimes, I mean, we want to drop it, but do we want to keep it in our hands to be able to say, I'm going to protect myself for a moment? I don't know. I'm not sure if that is something that we want to do, but it's a question that I'm curious about. All right, so that's it.
Oh. Wow. Thank you
Wow.
for giving us something pretty real. That's you really shared that, Eddie. Let's see what Sharone was going to mention or ask.
I just wanted to say that was incredible. Thank you for sharing that. Like, I'm still processing it and thinking about it, and it was such a deep experience. I wish I was there to experience it as well. Thank you for that. And it's really interesting to me because I grew up doing a lot of theater. So I went to school for it in Cuba. I did television, but I did a lot of theater too. And I remember a lot of the actresses, the oldest actresses in Cuba growing up that I work with, doing this really complex characters in the shows that we were doing, like you have to act crazy or with a lot of anxiety. And I remember specifically one person that got so in the character that she couldn't perform anymore because the character consumed, it kind of blended too much with her personality and her identity. She tried to go to places where people were acting crazy and start acting like that in her, to really embody the character. And she did great performing it. But then after that, she kind of got stuck in it and she had to give up her career. So that's something I remember. And in our training growing up, they really want us to do the research and become that, right? Integrated to our personality. So I don't know, this question of if it's beneficial to have the mask, when I think about that as a performer, as a dancer, I see you want to kind of show your authentic self and who you are, the authenticity, but looking at it from a different artistic point of view, like a theater actor, you do want to kind of make it relatable and performer, right? But I think holding that mask in the hand, just putting yourself in this is a role that I'm doing, I think could be beneficial too. Maybe this is the very superficial level. I haven't had the experience that you had, and I haven't been in that world for that long, but I do think we live in a world that, there is that light and darkness, and to be able to navigate through it, we need that balance of knowing when to put on the mask and when to drop it off. If we go a little deeper into that, really essence of who we are, and we think of a different world and a different realm, then I will say no need for the mask, right? So I don't know. So those are ideas that comes to mind. I just feel so inspired by what you said, and now thinking about that experience I have, I'm just like, whoa, what they said or how that works and how, yeah. So yeah, just wanted to share that.
Eddie, I just want to say, I think I appreciate your raw vulnerability. And it sounds like the dance performance was an enlightenment experience for you, because learning that it can be silent meditation or it can be moving meditation. And it sounds like you really became one with your experience and the vulnerability of just being your authentic self. And meditation is my form also. But I think there's something around, we think in meditation, they would say, get rid of the ego. I don't say that, because I think we need the persona and ego in our lives to be able to function. We have to be certain roles at certain times. And yet, where does that come from? If the ego is driving us and that is where we're moving from, then we are coming from an ego place. If we come from a core self or authentic self, we can use the ego or the persona as a way of being, but it's done with a different consciousness. And I think the shadow side, as Jung talked about, is something that, again, people say, get rid of it. And I don't think we get rid of it. I think we love it and we incorporate it and say, this is who I am, you know? And I think more and more practicing living from my authentic self doesn't mean that I always say and do what I truly think, because sometimes it's not appropriate. And yet I'm trying to be more conscious of the objective witness to find out, where am I coming from and how am I choosing to listen to divine wisdom in my life so that I'm guided and directed. And when I think that we don't own our shadow side, and the shadow side is not just the negative, it's the positive that we don't own. And very many people, they have more hard time owning their light and their greatness and their love and sharing that versus their dark side, you know. And we see that a lot with what's happening right now. And so I think that quiet space, that learning to deeply listen, whether it be prayer, meditation, dance, it's like using that as a vehicle to allow ourselves to be guided and directed. And I just really want to honor your vulnerability with that. And what you said, I think, is really powerful. And so for myself, I think we do need our persona and egos. And at the same time, to live from our authentic self so that we can listen to what divine wisdom wants of me, and so that I surrender my life and I can be guided with love and compassion and not be consumed with all the fear and all that's happening. So I think we need both. And I think it's including them, not getting rid of them. So thank you for your talk. It was actually very touching and beautiful.
Thank you.
I want to thank you also. I took two things away from that. Number one was during your performance, or your explanation of your performance, at that point where you felt freedom. I thought that's how I took it, where you got to that point where you were free. You knew you could do anything. And there, you know, that was just a wonderful way that you got there. And then the other thing that touched me was the fact that we can pick up the mask, and we usually, well, I use a mask as a protection, because there's so many times when we're not sure of what's coming around the corner, and we're not sure if we want to accept it, but we need to have a little bit, you know, we need to protect ourselves, because if we listen to, you know, the inside demons, the outside demons, it's a very scary place. And yeah, I think there's a reason for having a mask and then for dropping it. So thank you.
Really interesting points, Mary.
Yeah, there's something, you know, I've been thinking about a lot too, because you know, I think ultimately, if you're aware that there's a mask, you know, if it comes from a blind, you know, knee-jerk reaction, or it's just there, it's ever present, and you're not even aware of it, you know, ultimately it seems like it can be a tool that can be used when appropriate, you know, because we use masks for, yeah, like you said, protection, or, you know, but also to be a bit, you know, careful, and like maybe you don't know if you can put everything forward with this person. You're not sure if they're going to be able to, take this information, or if or maybe if it's too much. It could be even out of love, that you're like, oh, I'm holding back, but I know that I'm not letting my full light shine, but I have something more to share if that trust comes. Because also what Diana was saying too, I've been thinking about that. I think the key aspect of dropping being able to drop the mask ultimately comes out of love. It comes out of like, I want to share something with this other human being to shorten the gap between us, so that we feel less lonely, or we can make something, have this moment of real communication of soul to soul. So I think it's not something that you can do with everybody down the street, so it makes sense. Oh yeah, also what you said about sorry, what's your name again?
Renée?
Sharona.
Durrani, yeah, sorry. It doesn't say, it just says still a moving center. There's a I forgot your name. So yeah, this the performing aspect of it, it's such a good point, because when I did a performance of Wojciech, and I was Wojciech, and for this character, he gets like abused all the time. He's forced to eat peas, which actually I had to do in the dance play, and he's just like really abused, and I was feeling horrible. I remember it was around Halloween even, and I didn't even dress up in a costume, because I was like in this costume, for weeks already. And I just remember I started crying. I just like started crying in the middle of a party, because I was feeling so beat up from it. And I realized, okay, I need to step back from this method acting, like this like, I'm gonna go so deep, and I'm gonna feel it, and I'm gonna be this character. And I remembered some advice that I got from a theater guy that was working with us. Timing. It's like, if you pay attention, maybe if you found like the timing that works, if you find like, the key to like authenticity in the stage often has to do with your timing and listening. So if I can respond and I can listen and be present in the moment, I don't have to relive, and receive all of the horrible things that are maybe happening to me in that moment as well. So I think it's as a performer, there are things that you have to think about. Some people really go there, in that method training, and have these amazing things, but then their lives, they're not, it really can destroy your life. Anyway.
How about Sandra? Thank you for tuning in.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Eddie. I enjoyed your talk, your presentation. It was really stimulating. I think I did a workshop with you. It's been 2 or 3 years, maybe 3 or 4 years. But I feel like the theme was channeling animal energy. Does that sound familiar? Okay. So that was kind of interesting to have taken that and then hearing, this topic too. It's just, I think I haven't been a professional performer. I enjoy dancing just for my own, Renee and Nia and things like that. But I would just think, just be able to go from that very raw, self presentation, to be able to switch to characters that maybe are dark and deep, or even to animal characters. I mean, that's just such a real talent, but also that the freedom of being able to do that helps, I would think, just moving energy and, helping to really uncover the traits of your own true personality, whatever that inspiration comes from, whatever you connect to. But anyway, it's just a nice, nice to hear from you, I guess, and say that.
Thank you, Sandra.
I think this is a further extension of what Sandra was just saying. And with that Yoda quote, luminous beings we are, not this crude matter. I think there are layers in between. Okay, yeah, our true self, luminous beings, crude matter, that's this stuff. And then there's the masks that we wear. Yeah, of course, there are physical masks that we can put on, but then there's this aspect of ourselves. And as you mentioned, Eddie, that are inner aspects of ourselves that are changing all the time. Our thoughts are changing all the time. Our feelings are changing all the time. And so just being able to think of ourselves as kind of multivalent, like the atom has, some of the electrons rotating here, and then others are electrons that are at a different level, and then other electrons are traveling at a different level, kind of like that. So within my NIA training, I had aspects of it that I think are probably very similar to acting training, in that we were asked to very rapidly change from moving and acting with one particular mood, shall we say, like let's dance as if we're happy, let's dance as if we're fearful, let's dance as if we're curious, let's dance as if we're feeling sassy, all these different masks. Take off, take one off, put another one on, and just keep changing them until I felt as if I began to realize that I had a lot more flexibility in this inner layer. It's not the luminous light layer. That's like, light is just light. It's completely undifferentiated. It's just pure light. I feel like that's my true being, something about which who all of us have talked about a little bit, but especially Diana, I heard talking about it. But then, then there are those other parts of us that are more the shadow selves, and they're very variegated, and we need them in certain situations. In some situations, I can act out my complete silly, lighthearted self, and that's completely appropriate to the moment, and I like being able to act that way. In a way, it's sort of a mask. And then there are other times when I have to be my stern self. I have to put on the stern mask. I mean, the kid just bit his sister. I can't be my silly self right then. And just having the flexibility to drop one mask and put on another one if I need to. I mean, it is like we've been saying, it's our way of interfacing with the world. And it's going to be different in different contexts all the time. And I like to have that ability to take one off and put another one on. And none of them are my true real self. None of them. But my true real self is shining through everything and observing all that's going on.
I love this word that you used, variegated, particularly because it's like makes me think of a lemon tree that we're growing, that has these beautiful, green and white colors mixed into the leaves. So I think of that as like, our personalities. It's like one thing, but it has all these different, like, they're not, and it's not a clean line. It's like, blending into itself. There's something else I was going to say about that, what you said. I don't remember what it was. Oh yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah, that you, this idea of doing something out of, putting on a mask out of necessity, out of like because that's what your role. You know, as a parent, you can think something's like hilarious, but if you encourage, you encourage the kid, you laugh, and they're gonna, they're gonna do it again, and then they're not gonna learn anything. It reminded me of when I did the Vipassana. There was a story that Goenka was sharing, the guy who leads the Vipassana courses. He said that there was a teacher that he knew that during a Vipassana course, he saw someone was like sleeping or not doing their meditation, and he like took a stick and like banged the door and was like really angry, like, you need to be meditating, da, 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 da. Get up, don't be lazy, and like he made it look like he was like super mad, and then he turns to Goenka and then pats him on the back. He's like, I got him. And what Goenka's point was is that like the guy who was doing it out of love, he was like, woke him up and made him, kind of understand, even though he wasn't really angry at him, he had no anger, and not a hint of anger in his emotion, but he put on that mask that helped, motivate the guy to wake up. So yeah, interesting.
I think, don't you, that the problem comes when we start to identify with any of the masks and think that's who we really are. And maybe like with the actress that Shirani knew, that seems to be kind of what happened. She forgot that luminous beings are we. And she got stuck in a particular mask.
So
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sure.
I was going to ask a question, so please say what you.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I was just going to say they are all our authentic self. We're talking about separating. The truth is, in the light and oneness, they are all us. Angry Buddha, and you can't be angry if you're living in the light, or you can't be fearful, or you can't be whatever. The truth is, they're all there. And I think it's with not reactivity, but responding and being conscious and making those. Sometimes it's not a choice, and yet they're all who we are. And yes, behind it, and my consciousness is coming from a place of love and compassion. But again, who I am gets angry and gets upset, and it's allowing ourselves to feel it, because many people can't even feel anger. It's okay to feel sad, but you can't feel anger. But then the fear of it, there's the fear that we feel, and then there's the fear of the fear. And so it's like really trying to understand that it's all us. It's just, from where is it coming? And it's not separating it out. It's all who we are. And yet I think we can make higher choices the more conscious and aware. And when we come from our authentic self, our core self, we can make more choices versus reactivity. And also we can change what we want to do and make a choice of it. Suzuki Roshi used to talk about every moment's an emergency situation. You can go this way or this way. And so which is this path you want to take? And if you, in that instance, it's like between breaths, we take a breath, we exhale, and that between breath is, how do I want to respond versus I'm just going to respond. So I think it's important that we don't not assume that it's not all us.
Mm-hmm.
Shironi, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to ask Eddie, like, after a moment like that, like the performance you were talking about, and sounds like such an enlightenment moment for you. What next? Like, after dropping off such a mask, right? You're like, here I am naked, like in soul and spirit and mind and everything. What next? Like, how do you navigate life and you move on from that? Right? Like there's a switch that happens when you reach that, when you're able to drop social mask, because, do it in everyday little moments, like it's okay, but like social, like thing.
I don't know. I I think I will come back to performing eventually, or like coming back to the stage, or but it takes so much energy, like that I'm not naturally extroverted, so when I'm in front of people, I feel exhausted afterwards, and I think right now I'm just very happy being present in nature, because I'm on the North Shore now doing like farming stuff. Really different worlds in some ways. A lot of things are similar as far as like passion goes, and having a calling to go into this kind of thing. But I think what that performance was kind of a culmination of some years of trying to quiet my mind, because like at a given moment there's something, all these different things are ping-ponging around in my head, and I often would be distracted by them and wouldn't be able to actually enjoy the moment. Even if I did a good performance, there was something off, and it would frustrate me to no end when I would perform, and I was like, I wasn't there, I wasn't present, and then I would get people say like, "Wow, that was amazing! You're a super awesome performer." I was like, "Yeah, but that I wasn't giving anything. I was like just surviving." So like I think this. As a performer, I feel like I achieved something, but as a human being, it still feels super far away from me. This sense of like always giving, or like of listening, always listening, and always being present to the moments, the lives around me. So it's something, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know what's next for anything, but I'm excited to see what's next. Right now, it's everything that, for me anyway, my mind is so full of new things that I have very, very little time to kind of go into this back into the performing world right now, because I'm building another something else that I think is really important. Eventually I want to blend them together, so the idea of like meditation and dance and sustainable agriculture being something that's like, okay, this is a home for these things. With my partner and I, we're that's kind of the dream, and to make there's something healing, I think, in all of those things. So but yeah, and I don't know, the journey is a daily thing.
I'm seeing the time, and I'm seeing Dustin tuning in, or making himself giving and making an appearance, shall we say, putting on the mask. Would you like to do a wrap up for us, Dustin?
Sure. Yeah, thanks so much, Eddie, for sharing and leading this conversation. It was nice to hear a little bit about your story and the performance. It reminded me of, there's a story in the Bible that talks about King David, and he wanted to express joy in such a great way that was kind of against all the rules and against all the formalities of what everybody else said and how it should have been done. And so he went dancing naked in the streets as this form of great expression. And so it just reminded me of that story, and that I think there's a true beauty when we're able to drop the mask, that there is these untold depths of joy that we can find, where we can move perhaps away a little bit away from the performance aspect of things and more into the beauty and the joy of simply sharing, expressing, and inviting people into our world inside, you know. And so, yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. It was really lovely to hear your perspective. And each and every one of you, thank you so much for joining this conversation. It's always nice to hear all of your different perspectives, and hopefully we are all always sharing and getting a few gems of wisdom during this conversation. I know I am.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. I'll let you know that next week, Sharani will be sharing with us the topic of the eye, and we're still kind of sorting through from what tradition that's going to come. And so that'll be something to look forward to. We'll let you know. And thank you, every single one. Thank you for taking time off if you were watching the Olympics to join our little stage here where we had a chance to take on these different viewpoints. Everybody had something different to share. That was really a great addition. Thank you so much. And thank you, especially Eddie, for sharing deeply from your own personal life experiences and reflections upon them. Wonderful to have you.
Thank you. Aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you, everybody. Aloha.